Good morning, everybody. If you can please take your seats. Okay, just to say we apologize for the surprise fire alarm. We did not expect this, but thank you everybody for cooperating and acting calmly. It appears that everything is fine in the building, so not to worry. We are, of course, running now 10 minutes late for the program, but we'll do our best and see how the day goes and try and stay relaxed. So, yes. Okay. So, my name is Rachel. I'm the Programs Manager for the European Crafts Alliance. I'll be hosting today and handing over between our speakers, so it's very nice to see you all. A very warm welcome to our annual conference hosted in collaboration with Norwegian Crafts here in the beautiful city of Oslo. We are being joined today by participants from around the world who are live streaming via YouTube, as well as all of you here in the room, so thank you. Before we kick off with the official program, just some quick housekeeping matters. So just kindly note that we will be taking photographs today within the room. If you don't want to be photographed, please notify our photographer so that your face is not included. Also to take note of our privacy notice, particularly in regards to the attendance list that you use to register. Here's a quick overview of our program today. Sorry. You'll see that we have an exciting lineup. We've got a mix of discussions and talks and interactive moments. And regarding interaction, we'd like to invite you to join us via menti.com. We'd like to have you all as involved as possible. So if you'd like to participate using our digital engagement tool, which you can access via this QR code, or else by visiting this link and entering the code below. As we prepare for our official welcome to begin in a couple minutes, we'd love for you to share where you're joining us from. So please feel free to pin your location or your country on the map, which will show on the main screen. That includes all of you joining us online. You can find the link to this map in the chat via the Mentimeter. So we'll just let this run for a little bit and see where people are joining us from. And we will keep making use of this tool throughout the conference today. So you can use it to submit any questions which we'll address in our Q&A session. So keep logged into it on your phone as you follow along, and we'll keep reminding you when you can submit questions via the Mentimeter. Very nice to see. Oh, somebody joining us from Australia. Okay. As this grows, I'll now be handing over to Hege Henriksen, who's the director of Norwegian Crafts. And after that, Kristina Mendes, the president of the European Crafts Alliance. And they're both going to welcome you all and give some opening remarks. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. A warm welcome to everyone here in Oslo. And great to see and everyone joining us online. This was really fun. I'm excited to see such a broad number of places that are joining us online. My name is Hege Henriksen. I'm the director of Norwegian Crafts. We are a non-profit organization working to strengthen crafts from Norway internationally. And we do this through exhibitions, seminars, publications, residency programs, grant schemes, but most of all through networking. Networks are so important to us, and we have been a member of the European Crafts Alliance since the beginning when we were established in 2012. And we are excited to be co-hosting this year's annual conference. I would like to thank the ECA board and the Secretariat for the very important work you do for the craft field in Europe. With the current political situation in the world, it's even more important to facilitate arenas for collaboration and exchange across borders. It is really when we join forces that we can make a meaningful impact, and I think the ECA is a great example of that. Our principal aim at Norwegian Craft is to increase the number of craft artists from Norway that succeed abroad. In order to do so, we need to look at the complete ecosystem around the artist. The galleries, the production facilities, the curators, the museums, they all play an important part in the craft economy. In Norway, we have a strong governmental support for art and culture, definitely compared to other nations. We have grant schemes, working grants, and acquisition funds specifically for craft. These support systems exist as a result of the great effort and political work by the Norwegian Association for Craft Artists, who this year celebrate their 50th anniversary. Since their establishment, they have been continually working to strengthen the artist economy and rights. And they continue to do so to make sure that artists are paid properly for their work. I'm really looking forward to hearing the different perspectives on the crafts and the economy from today's great list of contributors today. And now I would like to give the floor over to you, Kristina Mendes, the president of the European Crafts Alliance. Thank you so much.
So, good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the ECA Annual Conference 2025. This conference is part of the CraftsNet project co-funded by the European Union and co-organized with our friends, the Norwegian Crafts. We are delighted to have our ECA members here with us, alongside with our speakers here in the front row. Our audience and participants, I had it written from all across Europe, but that's not true, it's all across the world. Craft is more than tradition. It's a living force in Europe's economy and culture. Craftspeople fuel innovation, create sustainable solutions, and drive local development in every region of Europe. This conference is about recognizing that strength and asking how do we position craft where it belongs, at the heart of the contemporary economy. Over the day, we'll look closely at what it means to be a craft professional in today's economy. Together, we will explore the sector's challenges and opportunities, from business resilience and collaboration models to rethinking notions of value and blending traditional skills with new technologies. So this is not just a conference. This is a chance to exchange ideas, to challenge assumptions, and to imagine new futures for crafts in Europe. Thank you for being here with us and for being part of this conversation. Let's begin.
Thank you very much, Hege and Christina. All right, we'll now dive into our program. First up, we have Elton Micallef in conversation with Rosa Muñoz. Elton is the CEO of the Malta Crafts Foundation. His work with the foundation has resulted in greater awareness and promotion of the Maltese craft sector, improved collaboration with entities in the creative industries, and better training opportunities for artisans. Elton is also vice president of the European Crafts Alliance. Rosa Muñoz is the founder of Ohayō, a company that supports institutions and destinations in creating and updating their brand systems. Ohayō explores spaces for differentiation, using tools like cultural curation, market research, and futures forecasting. This discussion will unpack key findings from the European Crafts Alliance's reports studies. Drawing on Rosa's extensive research and interviews with craftspeople, they will paint a clear picture of the craft sector's current position and future opportunities. We welcome you both to the stage. And a reminder to all of you, if you have any questions for Rosa and Elton, you can submit them online via the Mentimeter tool.
Good morning, Rosa. First of all, I would like to thank you for accepting to be interviewed today. We have just 20 minutes, so we have a series of questions which we need to go a bit fast through, but take your time to give a complete picture of the researches that you have been involved with. Okay, I would like to introduce yourself, and I will ask you, how did your collaboration with ECA start, and how was the extensive research process for you personally?
Well, thank you to the European Crafts Alliance for inviting me to this beautiful annual conference. And about the way we started to collaborate with the ECA doing these three researches, well, me personally, I personally have been researching and monitoring crafts since 2009, but there was a special milestone that it was important for us to be selected as one of the companies to develop these surveys. We set up our company in 2015, but 1 year later we decided to set up and start up our own trends observatory. And one of the fields, or the main fields that we started monitoring, was contemporary crafts. So in 2000, I think it was December 2022, we saw the call for proposals of the European Crafts Alliance, and we had just the intuition that we could contribute with something meaningful and valuable for the sector. So we presented the proposal and, well, we got selected. So from the very first beginning, we knew we were outsiders for the circuit of the craft support organization. So that made it a little bit more difficult to contact some organizations, to get the collaboration of some craftspeople, but at the same time, I think it was really positive to bring a fresh view of the sector and talk and open a conversation from a different point of view. Personally, I was really obsessed with producing something useful at the same time for craftspeople, but also for policymakers, and also finding the way to repay to the contributors of the research somehow for their effort and the time that they were using. But I have to say that it was pretty easy to get the collaboration of craftspeople because they wanted to be heard, so they were willing to participate, and sometimes it was a little bit more difficult to get the collaboration of some organizations. But after we did the first study, then everything was easier for the two that were coming, because we could show our commitment and the way that we were giving voice and visibility to the craftspeople participating, and that made the things a little bit easier.
From your conversations with craftspeople, you had a lot to come up with the studies. What resonated with you the most? Were there any surprising findings or memorable stories that particularly illuminate the current status of the craft sector from your vantage point?
Well, for me, it was the vision of craft professionals, and also their capacity to go beyond conventions. That was really rewarding for me, to be like a witness of the way they are able to envision new paradigms of things and new ways of thinking about production, about education, about art or crafts, and also their attitude towards continuous learning and also experimentation. I have a special memory from one of the workshops that we organized for the third study that we did, that was focused on understanding the digital technologies and production technologies in crafts and their applications in the sector. And as part of the research, we organized 2 workshops on future prospects. So we were using several methodologies used in futuring for exploring the plausible futures for the sector and also the implications of the sector in arts, education, a new type of society, a new type of culture. So in one of those workshops, there was such a nice group of professionals. Well, both workshops were interesting, but I just have the memory of one of them where it was mind-blowing to see what happened when you put all those people working together, and they started to find, application of crafts to healthcare. Well, I mentioned education or work production models, new products, new ways of communicating, selling, and it was revealing because that diversity of ideas and that capacity to see beyond and to see the relations with other sectors, for me, it was a signal of the complexity of the craft sector nowadays, and also a signal of the need of reframing the sector that it's being experienced today, I think.
Yes, that's the future of the sector now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's delve a bit more into the reports and their main findings. What are the key market trends and emerging consumer needs that are influencing the European craft sector nowadays?
Well, I will give some context for your question, and also in case someone is not familiar to some of the reports. I mentioned that we set up our own trends observatory before. So when we were developing the first study that was about, well, it was entitled The European Market for Crafts. There was the objective of quantifying the market, knowing the numbers, but also it was there was the objective to understand qualitatively which were the new consumer needs or the emergent consumption universes or profiles. So apart from this report, the European Market for Crafts, we produced an additional one entitled The New Consumer of Crafts for 2025. The years have passed and now we are in 2025. So in that report, we cover some of the key drivers for change and also the description of several consumption universes like profiles, and we explain the implications and the type of products and the lifestyles associated to those profiles. So just to mention some of the trends, there is a need for finding the origins of things and find authenticity. And I think that's something that we can see in the work of many of the craftspeople right now, and also is something that the audience and the customers are asking for. There are new paradigms also urging to have a more austere or asking for austerity and for a more simpler and easier way of living, and that applies to the way we consume, or at least some of the consumers are the way some of the consumers are behaving. Well, there is a more natural way of playing with tradition and technology is something that we are more familiar to, and it doesn't sound weird to find traditional products mixed with new technologies. And well, we could spend here the whole morning talking about it. Actually, for the study about production and business opportunities, one of the sessions with the crafts professional was a consumer trend canvas session. So. Yeah, and it lasted 3 hours. So. But you can see the results in the document, which is public and is available.
So something related to that question. How can traditional crafts remain relevant in the contemporary world, considering evolving consumer preferences and new technologies as well?
Well, we researched also about this topic in one of these surveys, and just to summarize the different paths or the different ways that we could follow to keep traditional crafts relevant, we like to organize those possibilities in 4 themes. One of them is a context-based innovation, and from our point of view, we think that sometimes it's not necessary to change the design or the image of a traditional product. We just need to look for a new context or a new environment, a new place where the meaning and the semiotic of that object is different, but it's appealing and it has a purpose or a place there without changing anything of the traditional design. Then the second one could be function-based innovation, finding new purposes for the object. We could be also innovating in materials, like exchanging materials from one practices to others. We see people that is doing basket weaving with leather, for example, or developing furniture, pieces of furniture which are soft instead of hard, right? So they are just 2 examples of it. And finally, and it's very important, I think traditional craft can find also a way to keep relevant by innovating in the way the communication is done. It's about talking about themselves, finding new channels to communicate, new places, attending forums that maybe are not for crafts, but they can be interesting for presenting also crafts there. And the way we talk about traditional crafts and the way we communicate about traditional crafts is also a path to find new markets and new purposes and new possibilities for this type of work.
Okay, technology is very important, I think, in today's artisan market. Very briefly, what were the challenges that maybe you have identified, but also the opportunities for integrating new technologies into the craft sector?
Yeah, well, I would say that I think that using technology is a personal decision of the craftsperson. It's not something that you have to do for the sake of it. But there are possibilities of there are challenges, but very good opportunities about this. About the challenges, we could highlight the cost of implementing some of these technologies, also the need of training to take full advantage of it, and the difficulty to integrate in the workflow of a traditional company this type of tools. But there are opportunities, for example, such as accessing new markets, because technology is not only for producing, or being able to work with new materials, or opening up the practice to new shapes or new possibilities in design, for example.
Yes. I'm going to discuss a bit education right now, because I think education in the sector is the future of the sector. For example, in Malta, just to give one small example, now we are reintroducing courses in the trade skills so that we encourage more young people to enter the sector, because we're seeing there's a lack of young people who are taking these jobs. What role does education and skills development, do you think, play in ensuring the future of craft jobs and the sustainability of the sector?
Well, the concept education is changing a lot, because we have official education and many other sources to get educated and get skills for the practice. But for sure, education plays a role in keeping the knowledge and also transmitting the knowledge and ensuring that in the future those skills are going to be kept. And that depends or relies on the ability to find new talent and also give that talent or those people a high quality vocational training, for example. But also we shouldn't forget that continuous education can be also crucial for already established craftspeople, because it's a way for them to keep updated with the market changes and keep engaged with an attitude of experimentation or innovation through education.
Okay, we're coming to the closing of this interview, and I would like to close this interview with something which gives an overview of the sector. So, given the current market characteristics of the European craft sector, how do you see the craft sector positioned in the contemporary economy right now, and what are the most exciting opportunities that you foresee for the future?
Well, I would dare to say something. I don't know if it's too much to say, but I would dare to say that crafts, in my view, they are in a really good point to gain the visibility of other cross-disciplinary crafts, such as architecture or design. And I recall from previous work experiences that in 2013, the European Commission published a working document entitled Implementing a Plan Action for Design-Driven Innovation. And my point is, why don't we start speaking about crafts-driven innovation? Because at that point, talking about design-driven innovation was novel, but today is something just established, and there have been even European funding programs based on that concept. And I believe that the vision and the capacity of the crafts professionals is perfect to envision new ways of doing things and to contribute to innovation in a broad sense of the word. So, yeah, and I think that well, that's an important issue. And about the opportunities, I believe that there are good opportunities for the sector in collaborating with, for example, visual arts, architecture, experiential tourism, the health industry, or even the public space developers or urban planners, for example. And I think that's a good opportunity. And also, there is an opportunity to create new profiles for craftspeople to become materials designers. Why not? And we have an example here, and well, Raquel, and she will talk about her experience designing materials, for example. Yeah, I was thinking about something else, but I just forgot about it. But yeah.
just before we close this interview, do you have a message to pass on to artisans about their future or about their work, their current work?
Well, I would have many messages, but I think I would prefer to hear them, and I think we need to give them a place to be heard, and also find the way of getting their ideas to a public space where they can share their views and the way they see the world and the solutions that they find for our challenges today. So instead of giving the message myself, I have been hearing many of them, and I think we need to give them the floor and hear what they have to say to us to solve the challenges.
Maybe encourage them to come forward more when you, maybe when we come up with further researches with them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have arrived to the end of this interview. On behalf of ECA, I really thank you for your work, first of all, and for sharing your researches with us with such enthusiasm. It looks like that throughout these years you have not only got more interested in the craft sector, but you have come to love the sector, I suppose.
I have enjoyed it a lot, really.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elton and Rosa. Next up, we are very pleased to welcome representatives from the Nordic network of craft associations who will explore the power of collaboration, knowledge sharing, and networking in the craft sector. Drawing on their unique experiences, they'll discuss how geographical proximity and historical relationships have shaped their approaches. The conversation will highlight the network's challenges and successes, offering practical insights and recommendations from other regions looking to foster a stronger craft community. Joining us on stage are Sandell of the Swedish Craft Center, Lise Stang of the Norwegian Association for Crafts Artists, Helle Dyrlund Severinsen of the Danish Crafts and Design Association, as well as Formcraft magazine. And all of them are in conversation with Tonje Kjellevold of Norwegian Crafts. So please come and join us on stage.
Hello? It's working, yes? Okay, good. Thank you so much, Rachel. And what a wonderful conversation to follow up from. I want to go through that report and look at everything. So interesting. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for having us. My name is Tonje Kjellevold. I am a project manager at Norwegian Crafts. And we are co-hosting these days in Oslo together with the ECA. I'll be guiding today's conversation, which will hopefully give you an insight into how our network operates, how it benefits our individual organizations, and how it aids the development of crafts across the Nordic region. Now, before we get into the conversation, I want to briefly mention that you are only getting a sample size of the NNCA today. We are Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, but we are missing out Finland and Iceland, who are also members of the NNCA. The NNCA consists of the Danish Crafts and Design Association, represented here with Helle Dyrlund Severinsen, Konsthantverkscentrum, the Swedish Craft Center, here with Managing Director Sandell. The Norwegian Association for Crafts Artists, here with Managing Director Lise Stang. Handverk og Håndverk from Iceland, when we have Edda here in the audience. And the Artists Association of Sweden, we also have in the audience here. And Ornamo from Finland, and Norwegian Crafts, which is my place of work. That was a lot of different names. To begin this conversation, I think we should introduce ourselves again. If you could please tell us your name, the organization you represent, and just so we get a sense of your work life, tell us what you do. Helle, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. Can you hear me? I'm Helle Dyrlund Severinsen. I represent the Danish Craft and Design Association. I work as editor of the digital journal Formcraft and our new platform, which is called the Green Craft and Design Guide. And so I'm a part of this network as well. And usually I'm behind the screen, so I'm not used to this kind of crowd. So please bear with me. Last week I was editing our new theme for Formcraft, which is called the Diverse Bodies. So a lot of interesting articles coming up. Stay tuned. So
in Danish or a mix of Danish and English?
Mix of Danish and English.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Lise?
Hi. Well, it's been said many times. I'm Lise Stang. I'm a managing director for Norwegian Association for Craft Artists. A typical work week for me is very diverse. It can range from from dialogue with partners for different exhibitions, reading white papers, political papers, aiding members and elected representatives, Preparing board papers I do a lot. And the last 2 years, it's been a lot of work around NK50. We're having a 50th anniversary this year. So that's been, we've been ambitious, so that's been a lot of work. So that's what I do most of the time.
Yes, and Maja Sandell from the Swedish Craft Center. We are really happy to be here too. I'm here with my colleague Linda Sondra, who also represent us in the NNCA and ECA. As a managing director, I have an overall responsibility. And what I actually do mostly is to support my colleagues in the different projects that we do. We have a national mission and also several regional missions and a self-imposed international mission. And right now we work a lot, very intensely with the upcoming Stockholm Craft Week event. Starting October 1st, so please come to Stockholm in October. But basically I do a lot, like you, Lise, a lot of application and reporting work, the fun stuff. That's for me.
And you heard from Hege, my boss, earlier today about the work of Norwegian crafts, and it's a mix of the three of you, I think. We also have a magazine, which is called The Vessel, which I produce. So I also sit behind the screen and edit stuff a lot of the time. And then sometimes we talk to politicians, and we do a lot of different events. So now you know a little bit about the NNCA, and you can see that we are quite different from each other, but also that there are some similarities. But I have to admit that I don't know how the NNCA started, because NNCA is older than Norwegian Crafts. So, but I know, Lise, that you know the story of how it began in 2010. So will you please tell us?
Yeah, well, actually it started in 2009. The first initiative came from my organization. It was a wish for a more close contact with our Nordic partners, and also create a network. And that was part of building up our international program, which actually in turn ended up in establishing Norwegian Crafts as a company in 2012. So a previous managing director and another employee visited Copenhagen, actually, early 2009, and we were invited to a lunch meeting at the Danske Kunsthåndverkere. And it was evident that there was a mutual wish to collaborate further, and there was a lot of common ground. So what we did as NK was to invite to a first 2-day networking event in Oslo at Holmenkollen in the winter. It was a magical place right then. So we invited Sweden and Denmark and Finland to these 2 days where there was a lot of conversation about, lots of common ground, basically. And that went very well. So in that meeting, we decided to establish this network next year. So it was formally established at Bornholm in Denmark in 2010. So I thought I'd read the mission statement. So, the serious stuff. So, okay, the formal thing. Mission statement. NNCA is a network collaboration which shall be a meeting place and a continuing dialogue between the Nordic craft associations. NNCA's aim is to strengthen the organizations in their work to develop a craft scene nationally and internationally, which I think applies still today.
Still stands, yes. 15 years in. And when looking back at these 15 years that have passed since the sort of the formal, the Bornholm, the signing of the papers, I want to invite you to tell us what we have achieved. How we've been talking for 15 years, but we've also been doing some stuff. So what do we have to show for it, this network? What have we achieved as a network? Mai, perhaps I can ask you first.
Yes. Actually, one of my first contacts with the NNCA was from my previous position as director of Gustavsbergs Konsthall. And we hosted an exhibition called Earth, Wind, Fire, Water that was originally shown at Gallery F15 in Norway. And the NNCA did the theory program following the exhibition. So actually, you should talk more about this because you were editor, Tonje, for the fantastic book.
It should be up on the screen at some point, the big yellow one.
Yeah. Yes. So that was a good start for me. Yeah, that's a fantastic book. And in my present position, we have done several joint projects, but one of them was the Curating Craft conference that was held at the Stockholm Craft Week in 2023. And I'm really proud of that conference. I think it was amazing. I know several of you were there. And it was managed by our colleague Evelina Hedin that we had as an extra person for 2 years. And that was also fantastic to run the project together with Evelina and NNCA. And I just want to say that international conferences and that what we do today, it's super important for us and for everyone working with this. I really do think that the connection that you do with other people and you start conversations and it leads to something else, and perhaps not tomorrow, but in a year or two, you know who to contact, and you get ideas from the other persons, not only the speakers, but the ones you're sitting next to or chat with over coffee. I think it's really an important thing.
And another opportunity coming up soon, as you said, with Stockholm Craft Week. Yeah, and the international conference that you will host. Yes, October 1st. October 1st.
But it will be both it will not be only in English, so also a bit Nordic perspective.
Lise, or perhaps Helle, we haven't heard from you since you introduced yourself, so perhaps I'll ask you if you have some highlights from these past 15 years.
I think that one thing that stands out is our joint exhibition in Paris at the Révolution in 2015. We had 5 curators, one from each country. And the title was Magic Language Game of Whispers. So each curator had to pick pieces that would relate to the previous piece, like the children's game. You would have to correspond to each other. So we ended up with a lot of art objects that somehow related. And it was a really nice exhibition, but not only an exhibition. It was also a great opportunity to meet. We had all the exhibitors and curators meeting in Paris. And actually we had, for the very first time, all the 5 ambassadors meeting up in Paris as well.
The Nordic ambassadors,
the Nordic
stationed
ambassadors
in Paris.
Yes. So that was quite an event.
It was, and it's also connected to this network, the ECA, because the Ateliers de France are also members of the ECA. So this is how the NNCA and the ECA are connected, because most of the members in our network are also members of the ECA. So when we want to go Nordic, we come together, and then when we want to go to Europe, we find our connections through this wonderful network. Yeah. Lisa, now I can come to you again.
So we've had many sort of common points, exhibitions and fairs and theory development in this network, but at the same time we've also found a platform to discuss policies, and I think also to inspire each other on our, the different political projects we have, to give ideas to other people and maybe tips how to reach out. And I would like to especially say that we were inspired by the manifesto made by World Crafts Council in 2019. So that sparked us, and we thought we have to make a manifesto ourselves on the Nordic level. So we had a lot of discussions and conversations about what are the important issues that needs to be addressed at the Nordic level. So we've ended up with a position paper for Nordic contemporary crafts, which you can find at the website for NNCA. So 8 points. I can do them quickly.
Yes, please.
Okay. 1, increase the visibility of Nordic contemporary crafts. 2, establish a Nordic Council Craft Prize, which we really want to get done, which is gained some ground, I'd say, in the Nordic level. Anyways, 3, research craft artists' contributions to society. 4, invest in international networks and opportunities. 5, collect contemporary craft for the future. 6, ensure fair working conditions and pay for craft artists. 7, stimulate craft skills and specialist knowledge in higher education. 8, ensure that craft has a vital place in primary education.
Yes, I think a round of applause. Yeah. And we had an NNCA meeting yesterday, and we went through this position paper again. And I think we had a very good discussion, prompted by some questions from the Artists Association in Sweden, how we actually can work to realize these measures, and that a lot of the work, although we are supporting each other, is national and going to our local governments and also the Nordic Council and Nordic Council of Ministers and lobbying, which is something that we're very active in now and encourage everyone to do in their own regions and countries. Now we've talked about some of the highlights and the great projects that we've had together. So I think it's only fair that we touch on some of the challenges of running a network like the NNCA, because I know that some of our European colleagues here are curious about our funding situation. I think the Nordics, we have a reputation for having a lot of money for different things. But we have no funding for the NNCA and haven't had any funding for the NNCA for a lot of years. So this is a bit of a leading question that I will put to Helle, maybe. Is it a struggle sometimes to find the funding to keep going with these international and Nordic initiatives?
Yes.
What?
That's a strong, a short version. It is, of course, a struggle. We are very grateful for the support we've received over the years, but it's a struggle to keep the established and maintain established projects and networks, because most funds prefer new projects. So that's a challenge that we are dealing with.
Yeah, and as you said, we did have funding for projects, but we don't have a funding for regular work. But I would say that it's not really a struggle to keep the network running, because it's easier now with we have Teams meetings, and that's an asset. So it's easy to meet and to share information. But then it's a struggle to do more, to do the extra things, to the lobby work that you mentioned, Lise, and of course the actual projects that we've done, and that's a struggle to find the time, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with all this, but I want to say, just if anybody's inspired to build networks within the ECA, it's basically no cost when it comes to exchanging ideas. You can have digital meetings, and I think if you find organizations who you have a lot of common ground with, then there's such a value, as Mai says, in dialogue and exchange of ideas. ideas and insights, and I think it makes us all stronger and inspired. So, and that is free. To have digital meetings and share knowledge and information is absolutely free, and it's easier to have dialogue. I mean, ECA does a lot of great things, but it is a big machine with 38, I think, members. So if one makes smaller networks within this group that are easier, we meet up 4 times a year now regularly with digital meetings. And it's so easy. So I hope other organizations here can be inspired to make smaller networks that can really help each other.
That was actually a question I wanted to ask: is how can others do this? And I think you've answered the question. You start with digital meetings and then see. But is there something, you know? How can we as craft organizations work? How can we as craft organizations work to better the craft community? How can we strengthen the field that we work for? Because we are not just working to meet, right? We are fostering the whole field. We are creating better opportunities for artists. So how does that? If we're meeting 4 times a year, what can we do to have an impact on the field? Yeah.
Well, I think it's a big question, of course. Does it mean anything what we do? But I think all the things we do have an impact, isolated and together. And just the fact that we're having this discussion and conversation about important topics, it really fuels our work nationally as well. It makes our thinking clearer about what we're doing. And I think everything from like making a conference in Stockholm about curating crafts, or being in Paris and getting the ambassadors together and talking about being concerned and about crafts, is all these things have value. So what can I say? I think it has value, but in drops you have to keep working and doing different projects and influence where you can.
I would also say that we are together. We are a stronger voice, and it's quite new for me that we have started to present for the Nordic Council, and that wouldn't have happened if we were within our individual organizations, I think. So that's been a good thing.
Yeah. Can I add? Also, when we have urgent matters or political issues, we can seek inspiration from the Nordic neighbors. In Denmark, we have high on our agenda that craft needs equal possibilities as fine artists in the art in public spaces. And we can look to Norway and our Nordic neighbors for great examples.
And write letters in support of each other. Yes, Lise.
Yes, that's one of the oldest tricks in the books, to say that the others have it and the others are better than you, so you should be inspired and do the same. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, and the Nordics have this sort of rivalry between the countries, and the politicians in the Nordic countries sort of look to our neighbors to see who's doing what. And there must be regions like that across Europe as well, and you know who your competition is. And you should join up with your competition, right? Because you can help each other. And with the Craft Prize, which I think it's worth mentioning what we're trying to do with the Craft Prize, because you might not be familiar with the Nordic Council prizes, but it's a big deal here in the Nordics. It's a lot of money, and they give a prize for literature every year, and for film and different arts, but none in the visual art segment, and nothing for crafts. So we've been lobbying for a Nordic Craft Prize for craft, and we've been asking Nordic museums to sign our petition. So I don't remember the number, unfortunately, but there was a lot of museums signing up. So when we sent the document to the Nordic Council, they agreed to put it on their agenda for their next presidium meeting, something fancy, in December. So we're very hopeful. So yes. Today's theme is positioning crafts in the contemporary economy. And we've had some wonderful insights from Rosa, and we will read your report. But what do you think? How can we position crafts in the Nordic region in a stronger and better way, and build a better brand for crafts? I'm thinking of Formkraft, Helle, and the work you're doing there. And
yeah, I think that through communication and promoting craft and showing the great examples, you get to broaden, to tell the story about how important craft is.
Sorry, checking the time. Yes. Yeah. I think there's this new TV series that just launched in Sweden called Nordic Design, and it's available in Swedish, and as a Norwegian I can watch it as well. And it's a very good show, but I would say it's not mainly about crafts, but there's a lot of crafts hidden in the Nordic Design. Is there a case for sort of taking over?
Well, not maybe taking over, but what we wish from the NNCA point of view is for the Nordic governments to see the goal that they actually have in these countries. There is a really strong craft sector in the Nordic countries, partly because of government funding and work grants and all these sorts of schemes. The quality and the energy in the craft sector in the Nordic countries is really well, and unique I can't say, but it's a value that they should actually use more. So I think the Nordic countries are very proud of showing themselves as the design nations. You've all heard of Finnish design and Danish design, and I hope Norwegian design as well. But they could also see this possibility to really promote Nordic crafts as something interesting for the whole world, maybe, and for tourists to see. And so I think it's kind of an unused potential from the Nordic region. Yeah.
And it sort of moves into soft diplomacy as well, and the way that nations portray themselves internationally, how we'd like to be seen by others, right? That the crafts is a very alluring thing that can be used more in that regard, because it is sustainable in a lot of cases. It's unique. It's connected to nature. It has a connection with the climate changes as well, or it can be a sort of a commentary. Yeah. You had your microphone up for a second, Mike.
No, but I think, of course, it's a bit different also in our individual countries. But I think personally that it's also super important to talk about crafts or craft art as a knowledge and a discipline of its own, and that's really strong on its own. And I think that we work with it within our organization to really broaden the perspective, to share knowledge on contemporary crafts, because the knowledge hasn't been that wide, and it might be the same for the whole Nordic region, that the politicians and everyone else, you can say Swedish design and it's like, oh, that's a good thing, and you say Swedish crafts and what is that? So we have to tell what it is and why it's important and what we do. And I think again that we are stronger, we are a stronger voice together. So
how do you do that? How do you tell them?
Like if I say it again, events like Stockholm Craft Week, and also to be very picky with how we communicate, and to really communicate on a professional level, use professional images, and to promote. We have members, but to promote the crafts as a professional field and an important field, art field in Sweden. So I think that's really important to spread the word, and Stockholm Craft Week has helped out a lot because it has been known now by a broader group and politicians. So that's something we can use.
Yeah, and you're also getting representatives from high up in the government coming, opening the events and showing up for crafts.
Yeah.
So it's like building the mountain, or what is it? Moving the mountain, something.
Being very stubborn.
Being very stubborn is very good. Yeah. So what is next for us with the NNCA? I think is interesting to talk about. We didn't get to do it in the meeting yesterday, so we can do it now. We've done 15 years, and we have plenty of years to come. So what should be our primary goal, except for the Nordic Craft Prize, which is of course very important?
I think the political meetings we hosted was a great initiative to strengthen the NNCA and the Nordic craft scene as well. So,
by political meetings, you mean internally, or inviting politicians?
Inviting politicians to our meetings, yeah.
Yeah, and it would be fun to do more exhibition and seminars together. A note on the network. A network is not an institution that can handle projects. So just to say that a network, we need always, if we do projects, we need one of the organizations to do the project leader role. So that has been sometimes my organization, and sometimes Norwegian Crafts and other organizations. We need to place the project at a specific institution. So, but I hope that we can do some more big projects going forward. Yeah.
That would be good.
I hope we have something coming up on Iceland, right? Yeah.
And also, I think I'd like to add that the NNCA, we are now a big part of the Nordic region, but we're not all of the Nordic region. So we are missing out Grönland, we're missing out the Faroe Islands, we're missing out Åland. So I would like us to reach out more and to see if we can broaden our network to include more of the Nordic region. But it's a challenge sometimes to know who to contact, and it was easy with the NNCA in the way because we are so close.
I would also like to mention the residency project that Norwegian Crafts and a Danish partner has been working on. And that is really creating new possibilities for artists in the Nordic countries to engage in residencies and network in the Nordic countries. So I really hope that this residency program can continue because that's a very good way to exchange knowledge between artists and also industries in the Nordic region.
Yes, what Lise is referring to is a project that we did with the Danish Arts Foundation, where we did a sort of experimental round of residencies where artists could apply to go basically anywhere as long as they had an agreement. So they could have a residency with one other artist learning a technique or skill, or they could go into a factory or a production facility or an established artist residency for crafts. And then we followed the residencies with a report done by Kulturens Analyseinstitut, Danish agency. They did a survey looking at the results of the residencies and found that there's the report isn't out yet, but it's coming soon, that there's a huge potential for production facilities to to become residencies in a way, and to ensure that the techniques and the skills are carried on, and for artists to sort of have a new way into learning skills. So there's no funding for a new round of residencies, but there's possibilities there definitely, and it helps to have a report. It helps to have data. Yeah.
The report will be announced at the Stockholm Craft Week.
Yes, that's right. 1st of October. Thank you. I think we are wrapping up our little session here, and I think some of us will be back up for questions later. Is there anything that you would like to say that you haven't been able to say while up here?
No, just a wrap up. Let joint forces make everybody grow.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Nordic Network of Craft Associations. We really appreciate your involvement, and it was great to hear about the work you're doing within your region. A reminder, if you have any questions for them, you can submit them via the digital tool on Mentimeter. Okay, are we all feeling good? Yes. Great. So next on our program, we have a keynote talk from craft and design historian Kristina Zetterlund. Christina is active as an associate professor as well as being an independent curator. She engages in writing place-based histories with diverse communities. Currently curator in residence with Norwegian Crafts, she has previously worked as a professor of craft history and theory at Konstfack, Stockholm, and as a special advisor in design at the Swedish Ministry of Enterprise, contributing to the current policy for architecture and design in Sweden. Thank you very much, Christina, for joining us today. We look forward to hearing from you. I can welcome you to the stage. Thank you.
Okay, I will try that. Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Yeah, good. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me here today. I'm really honored to be standing here and talking to all of you craft enthusiasts and all of you that work with crafts in so many different ways. And I really appreciated the morning, the conversations about economy and the opportunities that there is now, but also that craft has a bright future. And I do agree with that. And I really enjoy the conversation here and how working together, how that makes us stronger. And I really bring, that there is a lot of energy in the sector, which I do agree with. And so my name is Kristina Zetterlund, and I am a craft and design historian. And I'm active both as a researcher and an educator within the university, within the academia, but I also part-time work as a freelance curator and educator outside the university. So I engage in many different ways. And you will, of course, be able to tell that I'm a historian in my presentation. But for me, history is not just about something in the past, but it's also about the present, also about the future. History is something that is dynamic, and I believe if we listen carefully to craft, there is a lot that we can learn with in shaping more sustainable futures, and then understanding sustainability in the widest sense of the word, both ecological, economical, and social sustainability. And all of my examples, I will just have this picture here. All of my examples will be from the Nordic countries. And as I thought that not all of you are from here, and we see it on the map also that there are people listening from all over the world, I thought it would be interesting for you to learn more about the Nordic examples. And here you have such an example, and it's weaves that is called rana in Swedish. I think it's called rano in Norwegian. And it's a form of weave that started off with the indigenous sea Sami up in the north of the Nordic. And then it started to grow and started to be used more widely in Sápmi, to cover the traditional houses. And eventually it spread to wider communities. And in the 60s and 70s, it became a very popular weave to weave more widely. And today, it's a weave that could almost be saying, you know, it's a weave that is what would be the word for that? It's a weave that talks about the North, you know, also with the colors, and I think that is an interesting aspect. And of course, craft is a great passion of mine. For me, craft is knowledge, it's beauty, it's creativity, it's joy, it's community, it's necessity, it's imagination, it's innovation, and much, much more. And I do believe, and also that we already heard here in the morning, that craft has a unique position with unique opportunities. And I hope I will be able to talk about some of these possibilities through the lens of economy. My understanding of economy will be very wide. It will be both be concrete, but also metaphorically. How we can think about many forms of economy, such as culture, of heritage, or of value of community, of bringing together. Perhaps it could be explained that I will unpack economy in a wide sense of the world, where economy becomes a way to engage with and understand craft, now, in the past, and in the future. And I would like to start my journey here in Oslo with the new National Museum. I guess some of you have already been there, and for you that are in the room that haven't been there, I will really recommend a visit. And when you go there, you can see there is art, there is architecture, there is craft, and there is design. However, what I find fascinating as well is when you go to the museum is that they made a division between art and then craft and design. So if you want to look at what the museum labels as fine art, you need to climb one story up, whereas craft will be on the craft and design will be on the bottom floor. And this is a separation that traditionally has been about economy, where craft has been connected to just that, to economy, to the materiality of the everyday, and therefore been lower valued than art that was perceived as immaterial, that was then, because of that, was seen as higher. It was withdrawn from economies, from the complexities of the everyday. And too often, when I'm in craft context, I experience how crafters assume this traditional value system and do not put themselves forward with the brilliance that is craft. But we do not need to stay within this way of valuing practices. I enjoy to be close to the ground, to the earth, to the diverse smells, to the materials, to the place where all sorts of people are going about living their life. I enjoy being among people, being grassroots, to listen and learn with communities. This is to me much more interesting than looking down at them from above, from a position of power. And therefore, I guess you could also call my talk, or maybe a subheading of my talk could be the brilliance of craft and its many possibilities. In the museum, we meet objects, and here we find perhaps the traditional way that when we think about the economy of craft, which is, of course, the monetary definition of craft. And this is a glass object this is a glass object that is designed by Edvard Hald and is in the technique of Graal technique. I don't know if this is an object that you can find here, but you can definitely, the Graal technique, you can definitely find at the Swedish National Museum, and it's one of the most famous Swedish glass techniques. If you go to V&A or if you go to Metropolitan Museum, you will find examples of the Graal technique. And it is produced, and this is then designed by Edvard Hald in order for in 1918, and it's produced in the area of Småland where I work, down in the south of Sweden. It is a region that historically has been a glass-producing area, and today there is less production but more tourism, where the area is being marketed under the label of the Kingdom of Crystals. Engaging with craft has become a big industry where visitors come to look at glass being made in some of the few remaining glassworks, and engaging with the history of the region. They do shopping as well as eating in restaurants, staying in hotels, and go on moose safaris, and much, much more. However, what I find interesting, looking at the way that the Kingdom of Crystal is being communicated, is that you see what you see on this image here. You see a lot of crafters, but we only learn the name of the brilliant designers that are active within this area. The designers are being the brand that is being sold. Yet the reality is not so simple, as most of you know. Crafters has been essential not just in making the objects of the designers, but also in innovation, forming new ways of making and understanding glass. A very good example, if we go back to the cup where we started, is the Graal technique. That is not an innovation of the designer, but actually of the glassworker, Knut Bergqvist, that innovated this in his own spare time, but then was ascribed to the designer. And this is not a singular example, but there are many examples of curiosity and innovation that took place in the glassworker's own time. And this is an important history, as it not just highlights the importance of knowledge, of the craft knowledge, as more than anonymous labor, but essential in the economy of the glassworks for the innovation of glass. Given where we stand in traditional art, given where we started in the museum, in the traditional art history writing, where craft knowledge tradition has been lower valued, it's important to formulate these practices and remind ourselves of these histories. And for me, this is a history that says something else, something important in shaping sustainable futures. This has to do with the collectivity of the glass production, the interdependence of many knowledges. It's not about one or the other, as history too often has been telling us, but it's the many hands and the many knowledges that depend on each other to get the economy of the glassworks working. Here we're reminding of a history of collectivity, something that needs to be retold in our times that so much emphasizes the individual, as if we didn't need each other. And I would like to continue with the thread of collectivity. And here we go to a space of local creativity that you find all over Sweden, which is the weaving houses. They are a meeting place for sharing experiences, knowledges, and creativity. It is an important part in local community fabrics, an important form of economy of crafts. You find weaving houses all over Sweden, even small rural communities where they are making important contributions to the community, to the place. And they not just contribute to local creativity, but they also uphold a material and material culture heritage of weaving. In Sweden, weaving engaged not just locally, but also nationally. And yet it is a community that is constantly being overlooked and underestimated. A very good example of this is the conference Väv, or Weave, that takes place in Sweden every second year. And it came to the town where I teach in Växjö in 2017. And the local politicians, no, we should not support this. This is not interesting for us. You know, what can weavers do in relation to Växjö? They learned their lesson. During the fair, several thousands of weaving enthusiasts and professionals came to Växjö. The politicians clearly had underestimated the value and economy that resides in this community. And here you see the traces of the great engagement in Väv, the 300-meter-long rag that were made by 24 weaving houses from the region. Another great craft professional is Erika Nordvall Falk. that lives in Jokkmokk in the very north of Sweden, or as it's also known as in Sápmi, the land of the indigenous Sami people. Sápmi stretches over parts of Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia. She has, for over 50 years, been collecting local knitting patterns from Sápmi. And here you see some of her collection from a display that we did in the Luleå Biennial 2022, Craft and Art, that I curated together with Onka Kolar. I could talk about the Biennial for a long time, but that is another story for another context. The way that Erika Nordmark collects the mittens is not just about the patterns, but also about the community, about all the knitters and through this she also collects the great many microhistories that has been overlooked. And one example, and I'm sorry, I think it's a little bit pixely, or maybe it's just the plate that is a little bit, the quality of the image is not brilliant. I'm sorry about that. And one of her many stories that she has collected is this about Inga Skorpa. And here you see her on this plate outside the shop Domus in Kjellevold. And you see her with her husband Eric, and the story tells how they've left their village Rukto in order to go to Kjellevold. And for that day, she put on her city mittens. And it's them that you see there, and it's the city mittens that Erika has collected. And that means that she has collected Inga's story and also then the patterns of the knitting, as well as inviting us to engage with these through her knitting, these kind of knitting patterns that she puts together and sells to the local community, but also further afield. And by this, inviting us not just to make the mittens, but also to be part of furthering this heritage. And yet another community, yet another economy of craft, where economy, community, and heritage coincide. In addition, Erika Nordmark Falk has through her wonderful collection introduced us to lives that has been living in the shadow of history. And by this, she also managed to alter stories about Sápmi that traditionally has been written from the south, that knowledges travel, and this is the story that has been written from the south, that knowledges has been traveling from what they perceived as the center, the south, and then to the north. With an idea that the north did not have an agency of its own. And she could show through her vast collection that knitting did not come from the south, but from the east, and much earlier than the historians of the south wanted it to have it. But this, through a humble collection of mittens, she contradicted an aspect of the traditional colonial history writing. Craft allows us to tell these many stories, as it has been part of so many different economies, of many different lives and ways of surviving. And as a result, we find craft everywhere, no matter community or geography. For me, as a curator and as a historian, this is the real greatness of craft. It is a practice that exists regardless of practitioner's origin, class, or education. If you have a small monetary economy or no monetary economy. Instead, we can listen and learn with a given place. We can be there in a place with its practices, its communities, its history, and learn with various forms of making and diverse imaginations and ways of being in the world. And here you see a very good example of this. And this is another piece that we exhibit in the Luleå Biennial. And this is the beautiful milk shelf that comes from Aunäsgården in Övertorneå in the very north of Sweden, just on the border to Finland. And Övertorneå must be one of the harshest places that you can be a farmer. It has very long winters and very short summers. And so it's a harsh climate all year round. And despite of that, you find this shelf, which is not just about the mere objects, that you wouldn't find in it, but you find the time to make this beautiful shelf. And a milk shelf is, of course, a shelf where objects linked to milk producing, milk, cheese, and that kind of produce that will be in the objects of this shelf. And what I really love is how beautiful the shelf is. I mean, in the biennial it became a sculpture, but it's also a sculpture that to me talks about the dignity, how you perceive yourself, which is not just not just a mode of survival. So, and what I also find interesting about this shelf, because it talks about something else, because this shelf is about preserving produce before we have a fridge. And today, or any other sort of, traditional, any other sort of cooling systems that we have today. Today, we have silently distributed this craft knowledge to the fridge, and thereby that vast economy of extractions of materials. Yet, our current challenge of forming a sustainable development calls us to rethink this distribution. Yesterday, together with a colleague, Gunnar Almevik, that is professor of the Department of Conservation and Conversation, I guess, at Gothenburg University, I organized a workshop with crafters, researchers, and organization where we together were trying to see how craft can be rethought as a part of a future sustainable economy. We want to form a project that alters the idea that innovation of sustainable technologies are solely found in labs at engineering schools, but also with the ingenuity of crafts and the depth of wisdom in historical knowledges, such as what you find here. Or another example is the root cellar that I find very inspiring. And the root cellar being a cooling technology that does not add electricity to work. And I've also been traveling in Iran, and then you find a similar example. So underneath here is also a form of root cellar. And then you would have the towers here, that is wind towers, and the wind towers will bring in wind down, and then it will be moist in the cellar, and that by sort of creating air conditioning without having electricity. And this one is in the hottest climate. Craft has, of course, for a very long time been linked to a sustainable way of life. And one of the most well-known examples is perhaps the British crafter, author, and visionary, William Morris. And his book, News from Nowhere, could be read as a sustainable craft utopia. But what this book also does is placing craft in a past. And I do believe that craft is much more dynamic. We do not need to stay in the past. Instead, through a curious and agile craft knowledge, we can be an integral part of forming a sustainable future, not for the few, but to think of how we can use them in shaping sustainable futures for the many. How can we bring the knowledge that is in the root cellar, to contemporary housing, and I think that is bringing traditional craft knowledges, bringing knowledges from the past, but not letting them stay in the past. And that's what I really believe. We heard it before that we can do material research, that kind of curiosity. So I will align myself with what you talked about here in the beginning. And this is, for us at the moment, quite big ideas and nothing concrete yet, but we call the project Craft as a Regenerative Innovation Technology, where we'd like to alter current extractivist practices to form a project where we listen and learn with technologies that were formed with nature-based solutions, circular economies, and local ecosystems, with transparent chains of responsibilities. Building with the communities and local knowledges. By this, and this is important, not
staying in the past, but creatively challenge and speculate together with crafters. How we, for instance, can learn with technologies of the root cellar, informing future housing, not fetishizing, but remaking. And we would, of course, like to collaborate with similar initiatives and interested crafters. So if any of you would like to join us, that would be fantastic. Maybe we can make a European joint initiative. And of course, we are not alone. We see in this theory and practice how sustainability questions economy as usual. A challenge that were local, communion-oriented, place-based, all the systems that has been centralized and large-scale. And I do think curious craft practices could be vital in such a development. So I share your analysis that craft. I think that there is a bright future if we want it to be in relation to crafts. And I think one such example is where you see the text is being projected on, which is by the artist Emma Dahlqvist, and this is a piece that she exhibited at the exhibition at the museum in the north, and she has used birch bark, which is from the birch trees, the white and black ones. That is a very traditional craft within the Nordic countries, but she thinks of it as a material to be experimented on, and lets it be placed in, and therefore travel to other spaces from what has been traditionally used. So I think that this is a very good example of this. And I think that you would agree with me of finishing this presentation with this image of a birch bark handbag from the Sami University of Applied Sciences, and with the statement that there is a wealth of knowledge. I have just pointed out a sliver of this wealth and the many economies of crafts. As craft is such a rich practice, I could go on and talk for the whole day, but I will stop here and say thank you with this image of knives in the upcoming book by Sebastian Kasinger of the knife maker Carl Fredrik Johansson that lived between 1885 and 1944. And he was also known as Knife Kalle, and he is a resande romani. And resande could be translated into traveler romani, but we usually don't do that because travelers is very well-known British, and it then gets mixed up. So instead, we always have to do this long telling. So it's about resande romani craft that was active both in Sweden and in Norway. But that is another story. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kristina. At the ECA, we also always say craft is everywhere. This is something that we are always recognizing. So, yes, I really appreciate how you shaped a perspective that craft can be framed as a way of living and a way of being. And this can really reshape our visions for a more sustainable, more innovative, and more engaged future. So thank you so much for sharing with us. And we look forward to asking you questions later in the Q&A. But for now, we're going to have a break. Unfortunately, thank you to the Nordic efficiency, we are back on track with our program, despite losing 10 minutes earlier. So we will take a break until 11:30. This is Central European time for those joining online. For those here, please help yourself to some coffee, and the bathrooms are down the stairs at the bottom. And we will see you back at 11:30. Thank you. If everybody can please take their seats so we can get started. Thank you. Please take your seats. Okay. All right. All right. Welcome back, everybody. We hope you're feeling refreshed and ready for the next segment of our program. This is what we have in store. So next up, we'll be hearing from two creators, Raquel Buj and Kristina Austi, who will each give a short presentation. And after that, they'll be joined on stage by Hege Henriksen, the director of Norwegian Crafts, for a conversation. First up will be Raquel Buj. Raquel is an artist, architect, and designer whose work under the name Buj Studio lies at the intersection of art, clothing, and material research. She experiments with natural materials, biomaterials, and recycled materials, combining craftsmanship with technology to reimagine more sensitive material narratives in a world affected by the climate crisis. After that, Raquel will hand over to Kristina Austi. Kristina is a co-founder and manager of Veft, an artist-run center for digital jacquard weaving in Norway. The center supports professional artists and designers through residencies, workshops, and collaborative projects, facilitating a dialogue between contemporary art and advanced textile production. After Raquel and Kristina's presentations, they'll be joined on stage by Hege Henriksen from Norwegian Crafts for a discussion. And just a reminder that you can send through any questions via the Mentimeter, and we'll address those in our Q&A segment towards the end of the program. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Raquel Buj from Buj Studio. The stage is yours. Thank you so much.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this invitation and for you to being here, and also for this great organization and these great speakers. And for this presentation you already did. I'm Raquel Buj. I work under the name of Buj Studio. At the intersection of arts, fashion design, architecture, and material research. I'm also an educator. I teach in different universities, and I lead a program in Master Design of Textiles and New Materials. I I believe that at some point, spatial design and also fashion design are both second skins. As humans, we have our own skin, but as designers, as artists, as creators, we design, we create second skins that envelope us and relate to the others and to the environment. For me, garment design is not like a dress. It's like a space to relate to the others, an opportunity to make this relation. Okay. As I have a background in architecture, and when I was an architect, I mean, I'm still an architect, but being an architect, I was missing a little bit like this idea of making, because we, as architects, design, make plans, and someone else build, like the building or whatever we are doing, the spaces. And I felt I was missing like the gap of like knowing how to do with, well, in the process with the materialities, but I didn't like wanted to make like a total erase of my knowledge before, but I wanted to do like these layers of knowledge. And now in the studio, I work doing a lot of material experimentation. Then when we finish like everything, you can touch of these materials there. You can touch it, smell it, or whatever. And we combine a lot of materialities, many of them like very like with artisanal techniques, like it can be sewing or like it can be mold making, but even cooking biomaterials. And many of them can be also like more digital, like 3D printing, laser cutting, even safe memory technology that I do with other people that also know how to do it. No? For me, these materialities work at the same level. They are like opportunities, materials that we have to rethink how is our relation with the others, with the materialities, and how we can create new materialities for new contemporaries and tell new stories in a climate crisis and human crisis we are living in now. And for me, it's very important, the process and the trials and the errors that become part of the process, and the knowledge. Like I don't design everything that is close, but I go making, and even the concept becomes like passing this time with the materiality. This has led me to different situations, and I work under different scales. It can be, I can do some accessories with 3D printing and resins and natural resins, but I can do, we can do some projects more related to space, like this one that was done with a contemporary music company in the north of Spain, and we did like this in this Gothic cathedral in Santiago, like this stage inspired by karst, by crystallization of stalactites and stalagmites, and related to music. But for me, it's important, like the idea of the process itself can be shown, can be shared with others, with other disciplines, with other artists, with other environments. Many of them are commissioned. We have like this scenic, opportunities of doing garments, but also of doing scenographies, like this one, for example, with the Instituto Stokos, that is a dance and technology company, and we did a collaboration with them. Or some of them are like personal projects, more artistic ones, more research project ones that can be that can go to other contexts, like an exhibition, or, for example. Also, for me, in the work, it's very important to look into nature. I learn a lot from nature, from the materiality, from the geometry, from the way other non-humans like relate to the materiality. I think they are the big crafters. They have crafted a lot, like many years before ourselves. And for example, in this collection that I had the opportunity to do, it was called Nests, and it was inspired by the non-human, like birds and insects, and how they relate to materiality, how they recollect the materiality they have. It can be artificial, it can be natural. There is not like, that's a pity, but sometimes there is not like that gap. And they can create like these body architectures, no, or body fashion architectures, or spaces to take care of the others and the environment. And I was just like looking at that and like getting inspired by that, inspired also by a book called Animal Architecture by Juhani Palacio, plasma. And we did like this collection. For example, this is collecting the flower petals and working with a lot of time, spending a lot of time with materialities and also recycled pads to create like this space that is also nature, but that is also changed, like these materialities change, the flowers change their color and everything. Also, as well as manual and artisanal work, I work with digital fabrication, for example, especially to see things or to try to understand things that are invisible or that we don't see in nature, like, for example, the behavior of a wasp building a velutina nest and how, like, collect this wood from the trunks and put it together to create this beautiful nest. And we parameterized, like, this behavior and create, like, this skin over the skin, no? Like with recycled wood and 3D printing. And like looking into sometimes the things we don't want or the things we don't even see. For example, in clothes, it can be like something very like invisible, like these plastic labels that we use for the labels. That many of them are thrown away, and it's a lot of plastic. So we decided to create like this landscape around the body, kind of a rice landscape inspired by the topographic curves, and do it with a very like normal gesture, like when you put, if you work in a clothes shop, you know it, like you have to do a lot of this, and working like a lot of time with that, creating something that is meticulously done with something that is unwanted and invisible, and to create that space. No? Some of other non-humans, like turpial birds, they collect even plastic that they have in the environment and mix it with other natural materials like branches, like feathers. So I was inspired by that to create this piece that it's done with the recycled screens from the computers, laser cutted as if they are like artificial feathers, but mixed with natural fallen feathers, creating like this space of not knowing where like all these like dichroic and elements come from. And many of these can go from collection, but they can also even go from like to other spaces. Like, for example, it was a presentation in Spain called Campanadas that is in the New Year's Eve, and the presenter of this show wore like this garment that was done with 3D printing and with many other techniques. Many other techniques collected there, no? Inspired by an insect, by the wings of the insects and so on. Now I'm more specialized in biomaterials, and like I had the opportunity to go to do a research material and art experimentation in the Roman Academy of Rome, and we thought about this idea of the second skins, and inspired by a book of Ovid's talking about the cosmetics, we work with all this materiality, natural resins, flower petals, salts, to rethink our idea of skin and like of beautiness, more related to the transformation of the materials, how they transform, how they change, and create a collection or like a performance, let's say so, where like these ballet dancers take out and dress again, rethinking their relation with materiality. I really love working with natural materials and biomaterials that you have some of the samples there, like trying samples, because it's like working with something that it's alive and has its own, let's say, it's like working with another person that does also its own things. You don't have like the total control, and I really love that because it's very surprising and also gives you another things. We were trying here even to work with the leftovers of all the cooking of the materials and with the salts and doing this experimentation, and at the end is like creating skins that talk about what it's more away from our body, no? Yeah. And just to finish, for me, as I understand this, in somehow, it's like working as a fabric or as a textile. We can work like very meticulously with one material, with one tool, but at the end, is creating all these connections to tell new stories and rethink our relation with the others.
Hello, everybody. Everybody hears me well? So my name is Kristina Austi. I just have to check that this presentation, how I forward it again. I think it's locked. It's,
oh, who's from France?
I would love to show you some images too.
We're all the same. Okay.
Yeah, I can start maybe. So my name is Kristina Austi, and I'm a textile artist, educated in Bergen, Norway. I've been working with digital weaving for now 13, 14 years, and was lucky to get my job in my money job after I finished my education in a small weaving mill in Western Norway that is called Micallef. And gradually, after maybe 10 years, I gained enough confidence. And also through my work as educator, a teacher at the university in Bergen in digital weaving, I met amazing young people, my students, and I saw that eager of doing something and falling in love with a medium. So together with 3 of my younger colleagues, we established a company called Veft. It can be read like Vev, FT in Norwegian. Vev means weaving, and FT is like featuring. So we imagine ourselves as composers, composing weaving for the other artists. So this goes by itself. But so I don't like it going so fast. What should I do now? How I pause it? Can you help me out?
Yes. If you want, Kjellevold can control the slides for you, and she'll just let her know.
Okay, I can do that. So what is the main goal of Veft? First of all, when I started working with digital weaving, I noticed that people think, okay, digital weaving, so you just push the button and things happen. And my idea was, no, this is not the case. It's thousands of years of knowledge in weaving combined with all this new technology and programming put together. So it's even more complex. So how could I spread this knowledge? So my first goal was in establishing the company was education. And I saw there were a lot of other people, weavers and artists, they were interested to get that knowledge. So in my studio, it was in the beginning was my studio. Now it's kind of studio of Veft. We do courses, new beginner courses and advanced courses for artists coming from all of the world, and this helps me to keep in touch with my colleagues and former students also. So this is from one of the workshops this year, where you can come and make the samples. You can put it. You can also rent a loom in Bergen, a TC2 loom that is actually developed in Norway and just has been celebrating 30 years anniversary. It's an amazing tool, but it's very, very expensive. The cost is about 60,000 euros. So in Norway, I think we are alone of providing possibility to come and to rent a loom on daily basis. And we were lucky. We had actually this, like Lise mentioned, an NCA residency program. We had several of these people coming through that program and developing their projects. But because I was lucky to have my job in the weaving mill that is called Micallef, I could see that in this production line we could fit in a way production of the artworks. In the beginning, it was very difficult because if you imagine the factory that produces meters and meters of fabric to push into something that is really different from mass production and demands really big attention, and then the result is maybe just a couple or 2 or 3 meters, was really difficult to persuade my manager with. But slowly we got more and more acceptance for that, and I think it also gives back value to the weaving mill in the way that while working with the projects, we push boundaries. We get in touch with the artists that ask questions, that they ask to use different yarns, and then we bring it back again to the production company. This is an artist, Emilie Bergmark. She was developing her project first in the studio in Bergen, and I was supervising her, and then at the end we went to Invik to produce her work in a big scale. So the next. We also do public art for the other artists. This is an example made for Bergen City Hall, where the artist was developing her idea for the whole year and gathering these images, and then feeding AI with the images of citizens of Bergen, while creating these new portraits. At the end, it was woven in Invik. Later, you can see all the samples that will be shown here on the table, so you can feel the material that we have been working with. And what I'm happy about, and it's kind of connected to this conference also, that we can see that more and more we get appreciated as a craft people, because us in VEFT weaving this, we get credited. When artists talk about the artworks, they actually credit us at VEFT that we have been helping them. So I kind of feel this slightly change in how the digital weaving is talked about and shown. The next one. This is an example of producing art pieces for Paula Pigau's piece. She's a very skillful, amazing weaver, an artist combining music and weaving. But the big scale piece that was, you can see that the height to the human size was woven by us in Invik in very close cooperation with her. We also work with design, and this is very fresh work in cooperation with Kelly Cunnings and Mathilde Wenzel, that is Danish leather designer, and Kelly is a textile designer. And they contacted us to develop these jacquard woven fabrics, and then explaining the idea that this will be used in the making bags, and this really pushed what the bag is and what the object is, combining leather and textile in one. We also do reconstruction of textiles. This is from Oslo City Hall. That was curtains were developed in 1961-63 on the very fragile linen warp, and they really were falling apart when we get contacted and asked if we could remake it as close to the original as possible. And I was very happy to see that we could do that, and the Oslo City Hall got these new curtains just last year. So, next. So this is us, co-founders of VEFT. It's Alexandra Jägerstedt, Iben Krogsgaard, Håvard Kranstad. We all are the artists, and we are lucky in the way that we have stipends, so we pay a lot of attention to our own work, but to have this possibility of having this company and meeting all these colleagues and artists and pushing forward the industrial looms, it's really what we enjoy. While I'm speaking here, we're producing a big piece in Invik for the public commission for the artists that will go to Harstad in northern Norway Whoever is working on that, and even in Alexandra now working on in the village where Invik is, we got just sucked into this other cultural events and projects. So we're giving workshops, and we're having an exhibition. We're having a curated exhibition there that actually also connected to Norwegian Crafts 50 years jubileum. So that was my story.
Sorry about the... I can welcome you now to the stage for a conversation with Hege Henriksen.
All right. Okay. Yeah, my mic is on. I can hear it. Great. I just wanted to once again thank the ECA for hosting this conference here. I'm really enjoying the subjects and all the contributors. I also just wanted to share that there is almost 200 people, or between 150 and 200, joining us online, just so we know that. All right. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your practice. It was really interesting to see both. I think you have some common things. You work quite diverse with many other people, very collectively. I wanted to start by asking a question that is very linked to the theme of economy. Do you think that the use of digital technology has contributed to your practice economical success? Maybe you want to start, Raquel?
Okay. Yes, maybe. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think maybe at some point. But in my case, I think it's more like the mixing of techniques, digital and crafts. But I think the idea of having like all this way of working with samples and what the materialities at like different levels has opened me to like different possibilities that go beyond like one field, because we mix a lot of fields, like can be garment design and also fashion design, but also material research. And I think especially the digital tools have helped me a lot, like to tell other stories, even to go. It's strange because you can say digital tools and nature, but I think also digital tools have helped me a little bit to go more into nature, like to try to materialize processes of nature that we don't see, or even like see digital tools as if they were also hand tools, because when we use these digital tools, it's not like the end. It's not like I have a project and then I 3D print it. It's like the 3D printer is like another hands. You 3D print it, but maybe then you manipulate it with heat, or we are trying to incorporate biomaterials in the 3D printing. So it's not like the end of a change, but it's another hands or another tool in my case.
Yeah. Yes, interesting. What about you, Christina?
Well, I think also digital tools is a part of success in a way, because I think it's very much of feeling and handwork in that also. But of course, digital tools help us, especially when we run business, that it's easier to communicate, and it's important tool to show the work. And the tools today, you can also have possibilities of simulating, like for woven surfaces, even if you have to warn the customers that you cannot. It's not that the end result, you miss the feeling, but it gives you at least an idea. It kind of be extended sketch tool also in a way. So knowing how to use it, it's really helpful for the whole, in a way, creative process and production, of course. Yes.
Yes. And I was also curious to just if you have any reflections about why you chose to use these kind of digital tools. Is it because of your educational background, or how did you start?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Well, maybe it has to do a little bit with my educational background as an architect. Like we had like also to know how to draw and how to do like these models in 3D, and maybe that's also has come here into that. But I think for me, the most interesting is the mix of the biomaterials and the digital tools. I think there is something there that many people are like also researching this, and I think it can like approach both sides, because digital tools itself also have you can be more it depends on how you use it, but you can create more like reasonable, sustainable, more pieces. I don't like the word sustainable a lot because I don't know. It's like
difficult.
Yeah, it's difficult. But at least you can like produce what you need, or you can like instead of like buying a lot of things and then just using this, you can like design and it can be 3D printed. But also if you mix it with biomaterials, also the materiality inside, for example, a 3D printed can be not plastic or recycled plastic. That it's okay that is recycled, but it can even be a biopolymer. It can be also a nature. So I think I don't know if I'm like going a little bit there,
that's fine.
but I think it's very interesting, the digital tools, and yeah, I think maybe it comes also from my background of architecture, but especially for after architecture, my because the necessity to work with the hands and to explore more and more because when you start working with biomaterials, it's like an endless field. I mean, you can do, as a teacher, for example, when we have like this, I explain one biomaterial and all the students do something with this biomaterial, all the results are different. So it's very endless and it's very like, I don't know, joyful, and like you have like different textures, colors, and I mean, when you start, you want to do more. It's something that happens.
Sounds like it's something, you can't stop. And you, Christina, any interesting starting points?
I mean, for me also, it's in a way, because it's digital weaving I'm working with, and it's a bit about background. I had an engineering education before I started art education, but I always loved textiles since I was a small child. And then when these things two met together late in my life, weaving and digital thinking, because in a way loom is also and pre-computer in a way, it just click together and it just fall into the places. And I think this really tension and combination of something hand woven or something you can touch by hand, and the thread, the physical element has something to say, but also your brain, your kind of way of programming, it has something to say. So I think this meeting of these two is really compelling interesting for my.
I think it's really great that you both pointed out that it's all about the skills, the manual skills from way back that is feeding into the technical. You can't have just technical skills, digital technical. Another thing you have in common, many things, but is that you work sharing your knowledge with a lot of other people, like you, for example, with the VEFT. How do you think this building up this workspace for other people has affected your own artistic practice? Do you think it has an effect?
I think it has enormous effect, because what I discovered once I started teaching it once in my life, I discovered that you learn most when you teach other people, because you get questions that you never thought about. You get materials in your hands, and people ask, "Look, I want to do this with that. How?" And this makes me think, okay, how can I do that? And then pushes my own boundaries. I think I would be much more poor, creatively person. It gives this idea as small building stones that you build something bigger. So I think the teaching is especially important. The spreading of the knowledge of, and also because it takes a lot of time to understand such complex subject in a way like digital weaving.
Definitely. And you're also a teacher, but also work with a lot of like dancers and music. It's very broad, your practice.
I agree with Christina with the teaching, because also it's a way of sharing knowledge, and also of seeing how it can develop, and create these connections. And also in my practice, I really love to work with other artists or designers or creators, because it's like you don't have like the total control. For example, when we do like these garments and then these amazing dancers wear it, they know a lot about their body and about expression, and it's like the piece becomes to them as well, and becomes something else, and it has to evolve. And I really like this idea of that it's not your ownership, it's ownership, it's something that evolves,
Yeah, like a collective production. Yeah. Maybe you have like one really personal, rewarding or surprising experience from blending digital or ecological technology with more traditional. Anything that pops in mind? Surprising, maybe you got some interesting feedback from colleagues.
Well, I think for my part is really sometimes when I get in the hands also the projects from the past, with reconstruction, for example, then I feel that I get a little bit of way of going back in time machine. Then sets me in a way you don't have these people anymore sometimes, and then maybe some written information or some sketches and maybe a sample that is falling apart. And then in a way it puts you back in time, and you have a teacher somewhere that is not visible, and you try to understand how it works. I kind of really enjoy these moments, and I think it took me time to come to the level where I can kind of read it as a book. You find some ancient script with some letters left, but then you understand the whole story when you have the knowledge in a way. So I feel this is very much rewarding in a way also in what I'm doing, as an example.
Understand that.
Yeah, I had like several examples where we mix like these biomaterials and digital with tradition. For example, we just did a workshop that came from another workshop in Espacio Vilaseco in Galicia with a ceramist called Carlos Tenamor, and we used. I had the chance to work with ceramists. I'm not a ceramist, and to mix it with biomaterials and with digital tools that Jet Clay let us. And there in the workshop, like working with other people and with other artisans, we saw like the possibilities of mixing something that is very traditional and has a lot of knowledge, like the ceramist with the biomaterials and the bioprinting of there, and that in that community of like people that were discovering the materialities, and I was like teaching them how to use biomaterials. But I think it's important to collect and to work together, because I will learn more and we see new paths, and I saw a new path there that was interesting.
Great. In the audience and maybe also online, there's a lot of people from craft organizations and supporting organizations. And I was just wondering, there's been some talk about, the kind of like barriers, like costs and access to tools, etc. If from your perspective, if you wanted to inspire more people to use the technology, what needs to be in place, or what can organizations do to support it more?
Okay. In my experience, I have to say that it's a little bit difficult to do some material research and to incorporate digital fabrication of biomaterials with this like consume like business we have and world we live in. So I would recommend or would suggest, or I would love that like organizations or like the governments and like everything was more involved with research and not with like super fast results, because there is no way. Sometimes it's very difficult to, because researching and like these trials and errors that I say here, and it takes a lot of time, and sometimes it's very difficult to do it with the schedule we all have. So implementing research, material research from the beginning, like as a part of especially like all these organizations of brands that are bigger and like the governments and everything from the beginning, no? Not as something else, like something added, but as fundamental part of all the arts, the crafts, the design, and everything.
Well, I can again just say that initiative that has been a couple of years now with the residency program, for example, was amazing, and I could see that it was beneficial because it really costs money to maintain these maker spaces in a way, and also it's also supporting the projects that are ongoing, that not like starting, because all the governmental support always goes to the new ideas and new projects, but something to grow and to be continuous. In a way, it has to be supported over time also. So I think it's most focus should be in that, and of course, like I feel that especially supporting where it's a group of artists or group of people doing something together, because it has more potential to survive, of course, but really initiatives like paying out the artists to go to the places and learn things. It benefits both the artists running spaces and the artists that are going somewhere. So I think it's good.
I mean, you're both examples of how the craft contributes to economy wider than artists. It's all, all the artists that gets the opportunity to produce something or get to collaborate and have a result. So that's really great. Looking at the time,
I agree that the artistic residencies are very important as well, no? To create.
So residencies is an important part.
Yeah.
Making notes, everyone. I mean, there's been. I think everybody touched upon the future of craft in the economy, but also I should say maybe in the technology. Like, do you have any visions, like the previous speakers, about the future of the craft? You're part of the craft field you are in.
I don't know. I really love the talk of Rosa, and I agree with the idea that it's in a good moment. But many things have to change, because also sometimes, for example, talking about biomaterials and biofabrication, like one of the things that come up super easily is like, okay, but how long does it like last, this material, or how long does it take to produce, or so maybe for me it would be also very interesting to like these new materialities and new like mix between crafts, technology, and everything give us like new clues to think in production in different ways as well. No, like maybe like that would be something important. Not only just like okay, let's produce this, but instead with plastic, with bioplastic, and try to go with the production, massive production, but also to learn from these like new crosses to even think in new ways of producing, of new ways of cooperating, and for me that would be like the next step.
And to contribute to other fields.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Rosa mentioned. Yeah. Christina, do you have any thoughts about the future?
Well, I think I kind of very optimistic and think with this very big change that is going on in digital world and with artificial intelligence, and I'm in a way very much optimistic about us working with hands, and I think there can happen very interesting things in intersection with this new, very powerful digital tools. But I'm also convinced that they will never take over the feeling and the understanding and the complexity of what we are doing in a way. So I'm very excited, but I'm kind of optimistic for what is coming. Yes.
That's great. So just to re-mention, there's some samples from both of them here that you can they can touch, right? Touch
yes.
and,
smell, whatever.
Check out more closely to look at the techniques and the materials. Before we finish, is there anything you feel like I didn't ask you from the preparation?
I don't know.
Well, it's a subject we could talk just hours if we just swap
Yeah.
it to something.
Yeah.
I think we can wait until after
the Q&A. Yes. Yeah. Well, I've been very inspired by both you and everything today. It's very positive for the future of craft in terms of all the diversity and also in terms of the economy. So I guess we are a little bit ahead of time, but that's fine. That's the Norwegian style. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Raquel, Kristina, and Hege, for your insightful presentations and the conversation. And indeed, don't forget to come and take a look at the material samples here on the side at the end of the conference. All right. We are now going to have a live Q&A session. I will be handing over to Laura Miguel Baumann. She is the Secretary General of the European Crafts Alliance, and she'll be presenting the session based on questions that you, our audience, have submitted. I can welcome the speakers and panelists to the stage. You can just find a seat wherever you wish. Thank you.
No, it's because, yeah. Stay. Okay. Can I go? Okay. Wow, what a morning. I think it has been amazing to hear all of the speakers this morning. And as part of the organization, I need to say that it was very hard to create a program and to give not enough time to everyone to speak because I felt that we are missing some things, but if you are showcasing this online, you cannot have people sitting in front of the screen for 8 hours. So we needed to limit the time. And of course, we will love to hear a lot of more things about your experiences and stories. As you know, we are offering the opportunity to ask questions through Mentimeter. Everyone here in the audience, also the online audience, have sent questions. Now the hard job is to synthesize all of these questions. And that's why I will ask you to be really brief, to respond as concise as possible. And this will mean also that there are many things still in the air that a next annual conference will be needed. So this is also good for us. So in relation to the topic of the conference, which is position crafts in the contemporary economy, I would like to hear from all of you. How do you feel, just in a sentence, how the crafts is positioned in your economies, in your national economies? How is it seen? Is it positive? Is it valued? Is it completely ignored by policymakers? How do you see it? Can we start maybe by Helle? How is it in Denmark?
Yeah, I don't think we get enough attention in the craft field. Yes.
If you don't get attention, what should we say from the south? Please.
I think that there's a difference between where crafts is in the contemporary economy and the attention that crafts gets for being in the contemporary economy, because crafts affects everything, right? And especially, you know, the organizations that we see represented here, schools, museums, galleries, curators, everyone is affected by crafts, and it's generating a lot of income in a lot of industries, but it's not always recognized that crafts is the driving force, or the artists are behind the, you know, generating all of this. So, briefly.
This maybe links also to the sentence that you said before, like craft-driven economy. That's maybe the goal. Maybe you want to answer, and then we go back to the others.
Okay. Well, I can talk also about the situation, for example, in Spain. I think that the position of crafts right now is not as recognized as it should be. Maybe that's something that we have in common, but it's not the same as in other countries such as Italy or France. And why is that? Well, in our case, for example, we have been renowned manufacturers, but we have some good and recognized brands, but it doesn't, it's not a part of the country brand strategy. And I think that if our politicians would realize the power that it has, crafts, for projecting a country brand image abroad, then the things would be much different than they are right now. It's now in the public conversation, but not in a way, well, in the way that it should be from my point of view.
Thank you, Rosa. Christina?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, you still have.
No, I think I should say I feel I'm lucky being in Norway. I have to say that, and I can feel through my whole career the kind of behind myself the strong organization of craft artists. So I'm lucky for that. But saying this, I think it can be done more, because the value we bring to economy, I think it's bigger and has to be more visible. So yes, it's a good situation in a way, but it also can be done more,
improved,
especially for my heart says education, for example, kids' education.
This is something that it's included in the Nordic Association Manifesto and also in the Crafting Europe Manifesto. So this is something that I think that everyone agrees on. Please, Christina, what's your view?
Can you hear? Is it on?
Yes.
Yep. I was more than 10 years ago part of policy work, where I worked with the new policies of design and architecture. I was part of the group that researched for that. And in that group, I tried to make the argument for crafts, and it was heard. But I think if I was part of that group today, I think that argument would be easier to do. So I do think that in those 10 years, I think that there has been a change, and I think that is progressing. But I mean, still, of course, you could say that there is a lot. I mean, there's a lot of work to do. But the potentials are amazing, of course.
Thank you, Raquel.
I agree. It's her?
Yeah, try.
I agree with Rosa that.
No.
I agree with Rosa that there is a lot of things to do, and it's not that visible as it should be, and has a lot of potential. I think it's going now. It's starting a lot of. I mean, I think it's starting like in a way, but also because there are like many people working very much on it. For example, in my example, the one I know, for example, in Artesanías de Galicia, that it's from Galicia, the people that run it works a lot. But besides what is happening, I mean, it should have more support, and it should be more visible the importance it has.
Okay, so the conclusion is there is still need a lot of work in Europe in general. We thought that maybe Nordic countries, we always look up to you, that you are like the very good example, but you still are missing things. So I will start now with you, Rosa. There is a question from the audience. They are interested on your experience and all your conversations that you had with so many craftspeople and crafts organizations during the time you were doing the studies and the research. And what do you feel is the biggest concerns that craftspeople have regarding the economic situation and the future predictions?
Well, from the it seems that I'm in my living room at home. So, from some of the conversations, many of them were aware about the loss of purchase power of the customers because of inflation, and the fact that in some cases crafts may be seen as a luxury or something accessory, but some of them also were, and I agree with this idea, that it's not only about buying crafts as a luxury, it's also that crafts belong to many other objects and daily experiences that we can afford very easily. There were also some concerns, for example, it depends a lot on the profile of the craftsperson. There was a time when they were pretty much concerned because of the cost of the energy. In their cases, they had energy-intense practices, so that was also a concern. Yeah, I think if I want to be brief, especially inflation and also the cost of the energy and the instability environment that may make people think of it as something accessory or not that vital for them.
Let me ask you a follow-up question on this. How do these concerns relate to the challenges of reframing the sector where we were speaking before and adopting new methods or technologies like blockchain?
We in Ohayō, we are developing a project. It's a self-promoted project for using blockchain technology to guarantee the authenticity and also the authorship of the craft object. And that was part of the concerns that we were collecting from the craftspeople that were aware of a difficulty to guarantee the origin, the quality of the materials, the traceability of the work, and also authenticity and authorship. So it was detected as an opportunity, also as a challenge, because it's an emerging, in some cases in finance it's already quite established, and also in arts it's established. Craft has an opportunity to use it, but it's not that, it's not applied yet, so that's why we are developing this project, and we hopefully have some results of a beta version by the end of the year. So I will let you know how it goes and how we can provide some tools for craftspeople and crafts organizations to guarantee the authenticity and traceability and authorship of the pieces of their craftspeople and artists.
That sounds promising, yeah. Please keep us updated so that we can share it with our followers as well. I'm going to ask now our Nordic network colleagues. How can the Nordic network of crafts best leverage its regional alliance to elevate the reputation of Nordic crafts on a global scale, particularly in relation to the established Nordic design brand? And what are some concrete steps the network is taking to achieve this? If you can give us some examples. Ooh. Yeah, our audience is.
I'll make an attempt. That's really hard. I think something that we've been concerned with is the sort of loss of language surrounding crafts. That in some cases, crafts is simply being relabeled design. So you see, for instance, if you go to the National Museum here in Oslo, it's a museum that's been collated from several museums. And one of the museums that went into the National Museum was the Kunstindustrimuseet, the Museum for Crafts. And the sort of the title of the National Museum now is National Museum for Art, Architecture and Design. So it was the Architecture Museum, it was the National Gallery for Fine Arts, it was the Kunstindustrimuseum, and it was the Design Museum. But somehow the Kunstindustri is lost from the name. I mean, the objects are still there, the collection is still there, it's still very visible when you enter the museum that it's full of crafts, but the name is gone. So I think in a lot of cases it's about the language you use. So I think just with our organizations insisting on using the word crafts and being particular about the way that we phrase things, that's one contribution, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. We had the same situation in Denmark, the museum changing the name and the design schools changing the name. So craft was
lost. Is craft not sexy anymore or not attractive?
I think it's coming back. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Coming
yeah,
back.
But if they are taking it out, that's a pity. Okay, let's continue with Christina Zetterlund. I told you before I could have listened to you for hours. Let's ask you, your work often explores the historical and social aspects of craft. Looking back through history, do you see any parallels between past challenges and the current situation for craftspeople? And within this context, how do you view the relationship between the heritage and the innovation of crafts?
I mean, that is again a very good and very large question. I think that this example that I had of the glass blower that innovated the technology, I think that perhaps is a very good example. I spent a year doing. When I first started to work in the South, I spent 1 year just interviewing glass workers, the former glass blowers about their work, and and also how this story came out, that how we write that history about the designers but not the crafters, and I think that says a lot about we can think about that as a past relationship, but I also think that is a present and a possible future relationship. And I think that the last project that I told you about, where how can we rethink historical knowledge in relation to futures, I think that is also a way how we invite craft, that both visibilizing it, but also what kind of invitations do we give to craft. In the Nordic countries, we are also quite, craft is quite divided between different areas, between different sort of heritage organizations or art organizations, and I think and I think that all of those organizations, have a lot of, because of the engagement and because of what they do, I think that the possibility of reformulating the invitation, what craft actually, where craft will be placed, and I think that knowledge that he displayed in, forming the Graal technique, that kind of curiosity, that kind of, like you talked about in your, that kind of material curiosity, and what that could be in a future. So I think that. And I think that just continue the work that all of the organizations doing, and alongside with people like me within the universities, inviting them in, and also doing that with the knowledge, not invisibilizing or putting it lower to any other form of knowledge. I think that is also a way, how we traditionally have seen craft knowledge as a provider of something. But I would say that to stay there, to stay with that and research with that. Mm-hmm. Is that perhaps one answer?
Perfectly. Thank you so much. Let's move to the two craftspeople. Well, I don't know if I can call you craftspeople, maker, artist. Well, you define yourself. So the questions are now for you, for Kristina and for Raquel. In a world increasingly driven by AI and mass production, where do you both draw the line between handmade craft and machine-made products?
How do you see craftspeople's role in addressing future challenges, particularly concerning the sustainable, I know you don't like the word, use of materials? I know that you have touched already upon at this a little bit, but if you can just...
Okay. Well, in my case, I guess I like my pieces or the pieces we do is like they are like small collections or unique pieces because they have a lot of craft work and it's difficult to mass produce that. But I think the idea is not in my opinion, is very interesting to reduce the amount of pieces we create and make them more personal, more handcraft, more let's say that, and from that point of view. And also I think biomaterials, working with biomaterials gives an opportunity as well to mix with other craft artists them and see what other opportunities we have of creating new materializations or new pieces, and I think that's also very interesting, and see the opportunity there of integrating more sustainable or more environmental concern materials into other disciplines, into other crafts artisans.
Thank you.
I can probably talk from...
no, not anymore. Yes?
No? Yes.
Yes. I had a sign of yes and they're saying no, so...
No, yeah, we touched a bit about in the future and the craft in the future, but I think somehow if you use these new tools consciously, and it's in a way, it's a big... the tool is very good of reading patterns and also gathering information, but also finding new connections, making new connections that sometimes are really unexpected. Mm-hmm. So in my case, sometimes I can use it as a, but I have to emphasize critically, but as a source of inspiration, for example, because you can get some unexpected answers that makes you think, okay, how I make this. You come up with this image, but how I make this, and I never thought about that myself in a way. And then this tool, because it's digital, doesn't have any understanding of how you put different pieces of textile together, different bindings. So that makes me, in a way, push myself again. It's a bit like when we talked about meeting students, and sometimes people, because you don't have knowledge about the subject area, you ask crazy questions. And I think these craziness can push the arts in some interesting directions, and that's why I think, because these tools, they cannot produce things in a way that can push us humans in discovering new things. I think that will be the case.
So the human perspective, the head is...
Well, it will push our minds. It will push our minds also. In a way that maybe sometimes you don't even imagine, in a way. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. The other question is very related to something that you had already answered, so we are going to pass that. I wanted also to well, it's really curious. We are all women here up today. It's not that we don't like men. We invited also men to be here. Unfortunately, not everyone could come, so it figures out that it's like this. But it's also because crafts is a woman-driven business, right? What do you think? No? Yes?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, there are more women maker members in the Norwegian Association for Craft Artists. We are more women in the office. There are some museum directors that are men, but in Norway a lot of them are women.
Mm-hmm. It's curious. Okay. So I know that we don't have so much time anymore. I would like to have your vision about the future. I know that we heard all the time very positive attitudes, and you see that the future is not so dark as we have seen in previous congresses. So, as you said, Kristina, very well, that there is a difference in what in the policy roundtable you were 10 years ago. You have seen some progress. So, do you think we have a bright future in the crafts? How do you see crafts in the coming years? Do you think artificial intelligence is a hand, a help? Where do you see this? Please, Helle, start.
I think craft has a bright future. I think there's a potential for crafts in the green transition, to use another word for sustainability. And I think that AI is just another tool, basically.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I would just like to mention that because we had our General Assembly a couple of days ago, well, yesterday and the day before, and you presented this tool that I would like you to...
Yes, our new platform that is called Green...
Change the mic, please. This one is... Thank you.
It's a green craft and design guide tool. We collect tools and knowledge to share for the makers, the artists, so they can help them grow in the green transition.
Okay, thank you. It's in Danish for now, but we can use artificial intelligence to translate it. So let's use it for good
hopefully
things.
It will be translated if we get some fundings.
Yes, okay, thanks. Tonje, please.
Well, I feel like our future will be decided very soon because we have an election in Norway now.
Right.
And our election day is coming up. So I'm hopeful, but there's a lot of good things in place in Norway for craft and for craft artists. Scholarships and grants and organizations and systems that work, but that could use some support. But it's not impossible to dismantle them. You know, if the election goes the completely wrong way, you know, according to me, then the future could look quite bleak. So, but I'm optimistic. And I don't think I have a comment on AI. I find it disturbing and sometimes helpful.
Thank you. Kristina?
I think it's a good point about the elections, but I think also a little bit the future of the craft can be, I can imagine, a little bit like when Corona hit and people started weaving, at least in Norway, weaving and knitting, and really like exploded. So I hope and I guess that in coming with these powerful tools that will take away people's minds from computers, then you turn back to your hands and urge of making something. So I hope that could be another positive effect of AI coming into our life. So yes.
Thank you.
I would like to take on another challenge than AI, where I think craft has a future, which is also something that we see in our society is the greater polarization, where I think that the humbleness of craft and how that can enter in, craft has a back door into communities, and I think that using that back door in order to open up, where the walls are getting tighter and tighter. So, and I think that, and I can see that from my curatorial practice. I can give you a lot of examples. Doing that in the right way with the right language. The humbleness of crafts allow you to meet in a different way, and to tell stories and to see each other. So I think that's and I think that is, I think that the polarization is like, that is like one of the, that I think that dealing with that, I think is, and of course it's not a solution, but I think that, if we allow it, I think craft can really be a meeting point in relation and actually have a function. And I could give examples about that, but yeah.
Thank you. I love that. Raquel?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there is an urgency of telling new stories. I mean, there are a lot of things happening really horrible, and also with the environment and everything. And working with our hands, creating community. Also, textiles tell stories. There is a need of telling new stories, of rethinking us as humans that we are doing. And for me, I think crafts and artisanal work and arts, like all mixed together, is a new opportunity, or is an opportunity to say that, no? And that's something important for me. And artificial intelligence might be another tool more. I mean, we have to see how it develops. But for me, for now, I prefer artificial intelligence to do the bills, and I still work with my hands.
Yeah, well, I think we are appreciating more now the work that we do creatively, whether if it's with our hands directly or with the sewing machine or with the digital loom. But there could be also cycles. So just in case we are in a cycle and it doesn't go up all the way, I believe that we should take advantage of this good moment for crafts to, as I said before, to reframe, to rethink. And you were talking also about branding or communicating or telling new stories. So maybe we should try to think of who we are, to start speaking about our identity and the identity of crafts, and think of the way of talk about crafts in the best way, and make that reflection to start creating new narratives, a new vocabulary, a new way of talking about it that make the discipline grow in a better way and in better conditions. And about IA, well, I imagine what was the feeling of people when photography came out, and all the painters and sketchers and drawers were thinking about it. And that wasn't the end of the world. Now we can take pictures, and now we can use AI, and that will be happening all the time. So we now have another tool, and that's it.
Okay. Thank you so much, all of you. We have 1 minute left, so I want to say thank you, all of you. I see a bright future, and I just say let's keep doing the great work you are all doing. And we have a mission: change the language and continue implementing crafts as we were doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, and all of our speakers. Thank you so much. I will shortly hand over to our ECA board member and representative of SECAM Catalonia, David Places, for the closing remarks. But before I do, to all of you online and here in the room, we have one final opportunity for your input. We would like to invite you to share your key takeaway from today in just 1 to 3 words by connecting again via our digital tool. So that's the Mentimeter. And we would love to see your responses pop up in a word cloud here on the main screen. And we hope that this kind of captures a bit of what resonated most with you from the speakers today and from the program and the experience of the conference. So we'll see that emerge in time. But in the meanwhile, I will hand over to David. Thank you very much for the closing remarks.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Rachel. I'm curious of what will be going emerging. Oh, here we have something else, something new. Nordic crafts, legacies, experimentation. Okay, it's a nice combination, right? Inspiring, encouraging. Oh, everything is optimistic. Let me tell you that I took my own conclusions, and I must say that I'm very optimistic. I mean, after listening to all these panelists, seeing how they work, all their practices, how they communicate between each other, how clear they have their goals. I think we only have to be optimistic. Also, there's, as you know, a global trend about crafts in the world that it's, giving us the reason. We have been digging for many years as a sector, as a cultural sector, and now we are starting to have some weight in society and contemporary society. And I think things like what's happening today here, you know, that a bunch of professionals from different countries get to meet here in Oslo, for instance. It's a good example of that. We are curious, we want to connect, we want to network, and we are getting more and more professionalized. So good for us. Let's give us an applause. So many new concepts. Too much. Okay. Okay, you can see them. I mean, we'll have this recorded in some way. Good. That will be curious to see it. Okay, let me go on with the conclusions I took from all these brilliant panelists. Let me start with the whole concept of the conference, craft economy. I mean, this is what I was saying. We are also paying attention to important things for other business, other sectors, because normally as a cultural sector, we always wanted to see, to pay attention to put our effort in creativity and making things and, you know, in creating. But now we are aware that we need economy. We need it, you know, to have nice lives, to pay invoices, to be, you know, to be successful in our practice too. So it's important that we talk about economy, and I think it was a big thing that, you know, this concept arose when we were talking about doing the subject for the international conference of this year. Also, we heard about the concept of business resilience. We know a lot about that. We have to be resilient because we are trying to do business out of creativity, and that's not easy. It's always easier to do business out of other things, no more, let's say, materialistic, not in a material way, but materialistic, you understand me. And the first panel with Rosa from Ohayō show us many things. The studies that Rosa had made in the last years for ECA have been very clarifying of some, you know, some situations of the craft sector. I invite you to check them all. They are in our website, in the ECA website. There are some also in the YouTube channel, some presentations, and it's a valuable information. So use it. It's so important to collect data, to have data, also to influence. Without data, we cannot influence in policymakers. So it's important for us as a sector to collect them, to keep collecting it, and to spread it, and to certify our situation. Also, you talk a little about education. Education is the future, of course. It's the future. I mean, I think as a sector, we have a lot of work to do in education. I don't know, at least in my country. I don't know in others. But I think more or less it's the same everywhere in Europe. We need to be sure that people that wants to study crafts gets the social prestige that they deserve, and also the means to have the time to be on the workshops, you know, to get the skills, the manual skills they need, that other studies that are more theoretic. We need theory, creativity, we need practice. So that's more time, and we need this time. And right now, schools doesn't have that much time. So time is money, we know, and normally it's public money in this case because it's education. But we want, I think it's very important too. We were talking about also the importance of innovation and technology together with crafts. No, I think it's something we cannot lose in our site. And also the interconnection and the collaboration with other sectors and other economical sectors, as we said, no, design, art, architecture, whatever. All this is very important to be open. And also the importance, after all these studies, what Rosa and all the data that Rosa was collecting for us, is important because we are giving crafts a place to be heard and seen. That's important, as I said before, you know, to try to lobby, to influence, and we need that to apply that influence to get policymakers to do things that we need as a sector. Let me talk to you about my conclusions about the NNCA table. It's so nice to see how you collaborate, how you work together, and how you have this feeling and perception of being part of a whole. No, I think that's very powerful, and that's an extra you have here. I don't know if in other regions of Europe we do have here. But here I see you are implementing it, and you wanted to make it more powerful. So congratulations. We saw here the importance of collaboration. It's basic. Also, networking internationally, like we are doing today here, but it's so important to do also networking regionally, because sometimes we get, like impressed by things that are happening in the other part of the planet, but maybe we have a neighbor that's doing something very interesting, and it's easier to collaborate. And also, as you said, normally, Europeans, we think the Nordic countries are very rich, but I see you struggle sometimes also with money to get, to get funding for projects. I think it's the same everywhere, especially in creative and culture sectors, because we are not that rentable, let's say, in economical results. But as you said, it's the idea that meeting is free, exchanging knowledge is free. Sometimes you can do it through a computer. It's okay. I mean, it's so important to be physically, and especially when you need to practice something and to touch materials. But still, without money, we can do a lot of things. We have a lot of tools. Also, technology helps here. No? So it's nice to travel, to visit workshops, to exchange knowledge in that way. But also, if we cannot do it, we can do a lot of things remotely. So that's also important to know. You said a couple of sentences that I like it a lot. Everything you do have an impact, so keep doing things. That's true. Everything we do have an impact, so we need to keep doing things. There are not small things, because every small impact can be something bigger in the future. And also be stubborn. No? You need to be stubborn. We know that in our sector. So yeah, let's keep doing things and be stubborn. Okay, so that's very important. And I wish you good luck in December. I wish you good luck with elections, and I wish you good luck in December that with the national. No, but in December you have the National Craft, the Nordic Craft Award. Sorry. No, you said in December you will know. So it will be great news that we have another craft award in Europe. So we need more of those, because that helps to arise and to prestige the practice and all that. Thank you. And I want to talk a little also about the next panelist we had, Christina. It was a very, very inspiring, let's say, conference. Thank you. As Laura said, I could be, listening to you for many hours too. And it touched me when you started about talking about the classifications in the museums. That's true. That's happening, and it's a pity. Even here in the last questions panel, someone was saying that the world crafts dropped from the name of the institutions and the museums. That happens also in Catalonia and in Spain, and it's a pity. But I think we all know that it will be back. We are doing it possible, I think, and as I said, this global trend that it's like positioning crafts in where it belongs, I think they are starting to notice, and we were blinded for some years for design and innovation and all that, and technology, the digital revolution, but now people is going back to materiality, to doing things, to skills, to working with hands. So I think the world will be there again. We'll try to row in that direction. It's also important something you said in your conference, that crafts will communities. It does. It really does. Look at us. We are here. We are a big community. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'll try to be faster. And we are will communities, and also a big sentence is craft is everywhere. Yeah, it is. It's everywhere. Everywhere you look, there are crafts. There are some great materials. You can look later. Okay, and also another interesting is the wealth of knowledge. Yeah, that's true. It's a richness. You know, the knowledge is a richness. So let's keep creating it with these networks we have. Okay, about the conclusions about the participation of the reshaping traditional crafts in the digital contemporary world by Raquel and Kristina. The new materials, thank you for bringing them. It's very interesting to have them. It's a whole new field. There are a lot of studies around. I don't have time, but I will talk to you later. We have a big project in Barcelona about this. And I think it's very interesting. It's very powerful, and it's related to sustainability also, and how you can do your own materials. You can grow them. You can sew independent in the workshops, and not dependency, and new properties and values for craft products. And Christina, about the digital loom, and also I felt you really have a community there. And I think that's very useful, and I think very powerful also. And this show the broader possibility of crafts and technology. And you know, this is a plus. It's not a minus. It's a plus. Okay. So let me finish saying that sharing is growing. It's another sentence someone said. Be optimistic with the future, and working with our hands will save the world in a way, no? So let's do it, and also don't be afraid. I think of AI. I think it's another tool, as you said, and I think the example you use, you know, the paint, the photography. Let's see how it develops. Like you said, maybe I don't know. I will regret these words, but we'll see. I want to thank you, the host. Thank you for having us here. Thank you for all the organization, all the team here in Oslo, and also thank you for all the team of ECA for doing possible all this conference, and the GA. Thank you for the technician, and that's it. We are done. Thank you so much. Oh. Yeah, let us know how we did it, please. You can scan that QR and help us to make, future ends even better. Thank you.